was very blessed that when I went into that situation, I had no idea who this guy was. Like, I'd heard people talk about Jeff Walker, but since I was involved in my corporate job, I had never actually like looked him up. And then as I was doing the research for the project, it slowly dawned on me, oh, he's kind of a big deal. I did get to a point where I almost psyched myself out and almost went like, I don't know if I have the goods to apply for this. I waited till the very last minute. My interview video, which I did do, I know some people rail against that, but I did mine. It was not my best. My cat kept interrupting it.
Your story moving from like corporate to actually working with people we respect. And one of the stories that you said was how you started working with Jeff Walker, and you didn't really know who he was, but then you were able to like get started in like working with him, and it was through like a code email someone connected you both. That was like amazing, because things that stops people from like reaching out is they stop themselves from like saying that, okay, I'm not enough, I don't have the tools to get into the space. But you just went there not knowing who the guy was, and you started working with him.
First of all, I think we have to get clear on what a launch is, right? It's the fancy term for a that's it.
Let's say someone is just starting out, they don't have any copy skills, they are practicing, they are working on their skills, they want to get into launches. What exactly do they need to set themselves up for success?
What I think a lot of people struggle with, especially when they're first starting out, is
I just want to say thank you so much for making the time to speak with me. Again, for those that don't know, Angie, I've been like making it a mystery, like trying to not mention your name. I try to like ask people about who is coming, and most people are saying Alex from Orzy Media Titanic, because of like I was alluding to the fact that you've been working behind the scenes, creating a lot of stuff. And for those that don't know, I've been following Angie for a very, very long time, seeing the work you've been creating out there. Like it's very inspirational, like what you've been doing, especially your story moving from like corporates to actually working with people who are like we respect. And one of the stories that you said was how you got into you started working with Jeff Walker, and you didn't really know who he was, but then you were able to like get started in like working with him, and it was through like a code email someone connected you both. That was like amazing, because one of the facts that and one of the things that stops people from like reaching out is they stop themselves from like saying that, okay, I'm not enough, I don't have the tools to get into the space. But you just went there not knowing who the guy was, and you started working with him. So it tells everyone that it's based on like skills, and not actually you having the copy chops, you having the skills to do what you're saying, instead of you having to hold yourself back because of like having the connection. So everyone, welcome once again to the stream, and really excited to have you here.
okay. Well, thank you for having me. That was quite the intro. Yeah, it's interesting that like curse of knowledge can work for and against you in different situations. And I was very blessed that when I went into that situation, I had no idea who this guy was. Like, I'd heard people talk about Jeff Walker, but since I was involved in my corporate job, I had never actually like looked him up. And then as I was doing the research for the project, it slowly dawned on me, oh, he's kind of a big deal. I did get to a point where I almost psyched myself out and almost went like, I don't know if I have the goods to apply for this. I waited till the very last minute. My interview video, which I did do, I know some people rail against that, but I did mine. It was not my best. My cat kept interrupting it. And I sent it off anyway and was like, whatever, if they're bothered by my cat interrupting me in this interview video, they're going to be bothered by my cat interrupting me every time I sit down to do work. So might as well turn it in.
Awesome. Awesome. The reason why I brought you on today, again, you're the first guest who is like streaming into into the video into the group. One of the reason I wanted to set up the stage, because like mindset is one huge thing that people usually get wrong. And really I love like your rants, like you anytime you speak, it's like, okay, like the head trash, like getting off that head trash is like something that you're really good at. And one thing that I really love about what you do is you're able to like make things very simple for people to understand, okay, this is something huge. I'm going to break it down to a certain state that you can even understand it, even if you're just starting out. So that's like one of the reasons I wanted you to come on, like to take us through like the mindset stuff when it comes to launches, reaching out to people in the space who we want to reach and work with. Let's say someone is just starting out, they don't have any copy skills, they are practicing, they are working on their skills, they want to get into launches, like what is the mindset that they need to have, what skills, how should they approach like the activities that they need to be doing, the outreach process, like what exactly do they need to set themselves up for success?
Well, I mean, First of all, I think we have to get clear on what a launch is, right?
Mm.
It's a fancy term for a marketing promo. That's it, right? If we talk about launches in the internet marketing world, people are like, you have to get clear. You have to be willing to ask questions. And that's actually what I think a lot of people struggle with, especially when they're first starting out, is that they feel like they have to get on a call and prove their expertise. You can actually prove your expertise by getting smart and asking, getting curious and asking a lot of questions. So, like, granted, I know this after years of experience. It's hard to
Mm.
do this when you're first starting out, especially with some confidence, but I would let your natural curiosity take the lead here and say, okay, for instance, I'm putting on my new copywriter hat. Okay, you want to do a launch. Have you done a launch of this product before? Okay, how did you approach that? What did that look like? How did it go? Tell me a little bit more. Are you willing to share some of those assets? You've never done a launch on this before. Okay, do you have a particular kind of launch in mind? Like, are you thinking about the way Jeff Walker does it? How do you define a launch? Tell me. I just want to start this making sure we're on the same page. So can you see how I'm like reframing this? I don't necessarily know what you want me to do into a little bit of excavation to get more details out of this. And then I think another misconception is because of the popularity of Jeff Walker style launches, right? What people see is mostly the big PLF production,
Mm.
right? The one that takes us 6 to 9 months to put together because there's like 8 different sequences going
Wow.
on. There's like 20 different landing pages, a bunch of scripts that need like downloads. There's a whole freaking production that goes into
Mm.
that. And all people see is cart open, millions of dollars, cart close. That's what I want. And I
Yeah.
go, okay, well, cool. If you're not prepared to spend several $100,000 to get that $1 million cart week,
Mm.
I don't know what to tell you. You're not ready for that level. And that's okay. There are a lot of smaller launches like the seed launch, the quick launch, the internal launch. There's like a lot of different strategies. And again, keep in mind when I say launch, I'm saying marketing promotion,
Mhm.
right? That's literally all it is. There's a lot of different things that we can do that aren't the big 6 to 9 month lead up with all of the ad spend and the JV partners and the complexity that could get you similar levels of revenue without all the production and the stress.
Mm. Mm.
I don't know
That's
if that
so fun.
answered your question or not. I
Yeah,
threw a lot out there, but
yeah, that answered the question because one of the things I remembered you stating clearly with like Jeff Walker's launches, he has a lot of major factors, especially like he runs ads, he has affiliates, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the back end, and especially one of the things that was really funny was the customer support, like you guys having to be in the back end answering questions, like there's a lot
yeah.
going on, and even copywriters, media buyers are just pitching into work with like the customer support. So that was like something that I picked from that conversation. And that's like something people don't really understand when it comes to launches. All that they are aiming for is okay, I want to get to $1 million launch, maybe 10 million. That's like their goal. But what is happening behind the scenes, they truly don't understand it. So that's like that was the reason why when he said that it
hmm
really resonated with me.
Well, and let me be clear, like, and this will help you with vetting your clients, especially if you're
Mm.
on the newer ends. But if somebody is aiming for $1 million launch and they've never sold this product before, no,
Mm.
too risky. They're betting the farm on you. They're what I call usually. I mean, there might be some, people that have a trust fund and they want to try launching for the first time, and if it doesn't go well, But most of the time, when these people are putting a lot of money into launching something, they are hoping that it's going to do gangbusters, right?
Mm.
And if they have that, I need this to work mentality. If this doesn't work, I can't pay the rent. If this doesn't work, like if they're putting all that pressure on you on this has to work, that is a lotto ticket client. They're
Mm.
hoping that if they put in a little, they're going to get a lot back, and that's not a winning strategy to actually
Mm.
succeed. And you have to have the courage to tell those people no, because 9 times out of 10, they will work you around the clock. They will disrespect your work. They will constantly micromanage and ask questions and
Yeah.
like ask me how I know this when I'm saying these things. Like my best clients let me do my work the way that I need to, and they ask
Mm.
lots of questions, but they're not, making me do one of those time tracking softwares or anything like that because that trust is there, that mutual respect is there.
Mm,
So lotto ticket clients aren't in the habit of giving trust. They're
mm,
very scared and risk averse, which is why they're trying to spend a little to get a lot. They don't
mm,
make great clients by and large.
awesome. And when you say like getting great clients, like how do you set yourself up to get to that stage where you're working with the people who understand your value, who understand the type of work that goes into marketing, etc. So like, can you walk us through that process?
Well, and this is a mindset thing too. I can't tell you how, right? We're all familiar with Pareto principle. And this is how I talk, guys, around in circles, but I promise I'm always coming back to the point. Um, 80-20, like
Mm,
20% of your efforts generate 80% of your results, and vice versa. Like, and I've found that that broadly applies to life too. Like 80% of the applications for any given job I had read something like, I'm brand new. I've studied everything that was ever written. I will be the hardest worker that you will ever see. Just give me a chance.
mm,
And so I'm telling you that not to make fun of you if you've ever done that, because we all start where we start. We have all put some turds out there into the world in an attempt to put ourselves out there. And it's risky and we don't always know what to say, and that's okay. But I gave you that nugget to say if you fall into the 80% of people whose only message is, I'm new, I studied a lot, I will be the hardest worker you've ever had, how exactly do you stand out?
mm,
You don't. And so I've had people that filled out applications for these high level teams like in a creative way. And I'm not necessarily saying you need to like go out and print your resume on a donut box or something, but I know one of the first applications that I got when I was hiring my replacements for Jeff's team was a guy that instead of a cover letter, he sent a link to a Google Doc where he had written a sales letter
wow.
pitching himself as the product and Jeff Walker as the target market. And it was hilariously written, and he worked very hard on it. And like we could tell that he had put this effort and this thought. And this is what I respected too. He reached out to me and asked me what would make him a standout candidate. And there are a lot of people that are too afraid to work their connections. Not everybody's going to say yes just because you asked, but the point is you're not even giving them a chance to say yes if you don't ask. If you convince yourself this person is too busy. If Alex had convinced himself that I wouldn't come into this group and stream, he
Yeah.
never would have asked me, right? Not like I'm some grand high muckety muck or anything like that. But like, yeah, I generally say yes when I'm asked because I
Mm,
like talking to people, I like inspiring people, I like helping them have some hope and use some tactics and grow their courage. So that's why I'm here. And um, understand too that when you're competing for these higher level teams, that you have to stand out. That is one of the big things. Like you have to be able to bring big ideas. You have to understand where you fit into this. So if you're a junior writer, look for a team that's actively hiring junior writers. Don't try and pass yourself off as something you're not,
mm,
because that will blow up in your face the first time they ask you to do something that you've never done before that you're scared. And that's a little bit different from saying yes and figuring it out. But
mm,
like, don't go on to a team like Jeff's claiming that you're a senior copywriter when you've never actually written an email sequence before.
yeah.
That is not the same thing as you taking a job as a junior copywriter there and you've never written an email sequence before, but now they're giving you one to try it out. Totally different ballgame.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, there's lots of high level teams like that that are hiring newer writers. So don't be afraid to try out. Just make sure that you're not falling into that 80% that
yeah.
are going, I will be the hardest one. Yeah.
But what the crazy thing was, like, I was watching a YouTube video from this guy who does like documentaries on YouTube, and that was like the same thing. He says before he worked for Vox, he literally created a video reel and targeted to them. He placed in the work like, okay, I'm going to create this video specifically for these guys, and then just let that be like my application. So you actually saying that was like, okay, I've already watched I've watched a video of it and you're saying it here, so that's really cool.
Hmm. Yep. You got to put yourself out there. You got to try things. And there's no guarantee that anything in this life will work. So don't be a lotto ticket copywriter any more than you want lotto ticket clients, right?
Mm,
Like it's a numbers game, especially when you're first starting out, until you can start to build up your reputation and then your reputation precedes you.
awesome. And for those and for people starting out, do you recommend them to work with agencies or just freelance with coaches directly? Like, what would be the ideal scenario for someone starting out? Maybe they have something under the brain.
A tricky one to unpack because all of these things work. You
Mm,
can do agencies, you can do freelancer groups, you can do job boards. It's just the amount of effort that you want to put in and the return that you're getting from that. Does that work for you?
mm,
So, cold calls work, right? It's
yeah,
proven. There's a whole industry around cold calling.
true.
You cannot pay me enough to do a cold call to grow my bit. Like, I will never do a cold call. I don't like it. I resist it with all of my might. The return isn't there. I just don't enjoy it. So I'm not going to build my business around something that makes me freaking miserable.
Mm,
So the key to like finding gigs is really finding two or three channels that you actually enjoy. You could host conversations like this. You could do cold email outreach. You could experiment with ads. You could go to in-person conferences, right? And especially if you do it smart and you're not going to marketer conferences, but you're going to industry
yeah.
conferences where you're one of the few marketers there. And people are like, oh my God, I really need help with this. My landing page needs work. Could I talk to you? Could I buy you lunch? Those are really good ways to stand out. Now, I'm a people person. I love
Hmm.
going to events. I've landed clients at events. But if you're not a people person, then maybe you don't make live events part of your routine. Don't add in that piece that makes you miserable. Do what an experiment until you find those things that are working for you.
Awesome. Awesome. And speaking about going to events, let's say someone is going to an event to land clients, how do they approach the conversation? Because you don't want to get in there like handing out business cards. So how do you handle those conversations to say, okay, this is how I'm going to handle the conversation that's going to then turn out to be maybe a paying client in the end?
There's a lot of different ways to handle that. And I'm glad that you brought up the business card thing because I do remember early in my business day, like going to local networking events and feeling like it was a competition just to see who could hand out the most business cards. And some of those conversations were super awkward too. Like you'd be
Mm,
deep in a conversation with this one person and somebody comes up and goes, "Hi, sorry, I just wanted to give you my business card." And then like literally just pieces out. What?
mm,
Don't do that. Be as awkward as you want, but like actually care about the other person is
mm,
key. And part of caring about that other person is whether or not that you could actually help them, right?
mm,
So, approaching that conversation again, lead with curiosity. What do you do? Oh, that's really cool. How long have you been in business? What made you start that? Oh, that's fantastic. Like, just let that conversation evolve naturally because eventually 9 times out of 10 reciprocity, right, marketing principle, so they're going to turn around and go, okay, so what do you do? "Oh, I'm a marketer. Actually, I just started my copywriting business and I was here hoping to meet cool people like you and see if I couldn't grow,"
mm.
right? That's a totally different approach from, well, I'm here to land clients, do you think you're ready to buy?
No.
It's all in the energy that you bring to it. And people by and large can tell if you're just
Mm,
there to get something from them versus if you're there to create a genuine relationship.
right. Nice. Nice. I totally I totally love that because like one of the things that I usually do is like volunteer at tech events. So like being in the background, I see a lot of those things going on. You see a lot of people handing out business cards. Sometimes they just come in, okay, I'm going to take a picture of this guy, then they post it on social media. No contest, nothing else. Okay, I just met this person. They don't even know who they are. They didn't even have a conversation with the person. Like who does that?
Hmm. There's a lot of people out there, so like be just a little bit skeptical of all of the leaders or random internet people that you see posting pictures posing with
Mm,
famous people because that could be just like Alex said. They went to an event and like Jeff poses for pictures with people at his
yeah.
events, and the line to pose with him is incredibly long.
Hmm.
You know? It can be like Comic-Con in that kind of sense.
Mm, awesome. And one thing that you mentioned during the conversation was you said great clients have specific type of questions when they ask you when it comes to launches. So like, can you tell us some of the questions that they ask? Okay, before they launch, maybe they are at a stage, maybe they're making six, seven figures. So what are some of the questions that they're asking and how do you approach the questions that they ask to create a successful marketing campaign around their product?
Are you asking like what I would ask somebody if they're talking
Hmm.
about doing a
Yeah,
launch? Like
yeah.
to, okay. So the very first question I ask them is, have you sold this product before?
Mm,
Right? Because if I know that they've sold this product before, then I know I want to dig into their past marketing. I want to see if they've got testimonials that I can use as assets, right? I don't have any of that if this is a brand new product. So that's why
mm,
that's the first question I ask. Okay, you haven't sold this product before. So what made you create this product? Have people been reaching out to you and saying, we need something like this? I need a step one before I get to your level. Like, what has inspired you to launch this? Um, like a lot of people will be reductive on this, and I think again this is why curiosity is really helpful because they'll be like, oh, I need a new revenue stream. Like, get down to the why. We all
mm,
need new revenue streams. Who freaking cares, right? But like, okay, so you need a new revenue stream. Why this product and
mm,
why now? Who's asking about this? Like, do you have people that I could talk to? Do you have surveys that you've run where people said, this is what I want to see in a product, and you're building that product? What's the plan? Can I see the product in advance? Right? That's one thing we didn't actually talk about a whole lot on Jeff's team, but you see a lot of these big affiliates that promote each other. And it was so funny because I'm on all their lists and I can tell when a promo is going on because I get like 10 different variations of the same email on the same day.
Sheesh.
They're all
Oh,
using the swipe files, the JV swipe emails. We never on Jeff's team used anybody's swipe files. We would
oh,
always insist, show me your course or your program,
mhm,
show me all the marketing that you're doing for this launch. We are going to create our own launch for this, our own
yeah,
content for this by
okay.
pulling out the thing that we think is relevant to our audience. So there's a little uh, behind the scenes there for you too. I think
Wow.
that's what made us so successful as affiliate marketers is we never used the swipe.
Wow, that's amazing. I really didn't know that because one of the things that I've not been in much like a lot of affiliate launches. So using actually writing your own emails and actually going into the product and experiencing the product like the consumer is something that yeah, I'm just like learning now. So that's like amazing because and why do you think like most affiliates use the swipe files? Like what is stopping them from actually writing their own emails?
They're running short on time. Um, they're having trouble coming up with hooks or angles. They're like maxed out and can't come up with additional content. They don't have the time to dig into the product to find what's cool. So they're like, you know what's cool about your product. I'll just use what you have to say about it, right? And there's some psychology going on both ways. The reason that we create swipe files for the JVs is to make it easier for them to promote
Yeah.
because of all those reasons that I just gave out. But if they're too busy to promote and they're relying on the swipe file, it can also be a little bit of a catch 22 there that like they're using the swipe file, but so is everybody else.
Mm.
And if, well, it's, there's also the caveat that I was on all those lists because we're JVs for all of those people. So
Yeah.
like not everybody's going to have that experience, but it's something to be aware of.
Mm. Mm. And do you feel like maybe just let's say someone similar to you is like on all these guys' email list. Do you think that's going to affect like the conversion rate of people buying the product or it varies?
Varies, I think. I used to tell people the most interesting thing about running Jeff's list for as long as I did was I could see these distinct groups of buyers, right, and non-buyers. There's people that are coming onto the list for the first time. They barely know us, or maybe they've heard of us, and so they wanted to learn a little bit more, and this is their first time going through a launch, right? There's people who have been on the list and they've seen a launch, but they totally forgot about it. Like, life got in the
Mm.
way. They've been on the list for a while, but they're seeing it like it's brand new for the first time, even though they're not a new subscriber. The third group is people who have seen this before, and when they see the marketing this time around, they go, "Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, cool. Yeah, I kind of remember that." And so maybe they start to pay attention a little bit more. The fourth group is people who have seen this maybe a time, maybe multiple times, and gone, "Okay, it wasn't the time before, but I think I'm ready now. Like I know what he's talking about. I'm ready to dig in a little bit more." And the fifth group was people that were studying what we're doing and they were never going to buy,
Yeah.
right? Or they signed up and they forgot about us and they were just never going to buy, right?
Mhm.
But I found that interesting because there were JV promos that we would run over and over and over, year after year, without changing anything. It's like we
Mm,
changed the subject lines and just enough of the email body to not have it nest in Gmail
yeah,
inboxes and stuff like
yeah.
that. But we weren't writing from scratch brand new promos for the same product every year. If we found a sequence that worked, we ran that sucker into the ground. And I think that's what smart marketers do because it's exhausting to
Mm,
constantly churn and churn and churn. Put some good content out there, measure it, see what's getting clicks, what's getting sales, what's getting engagement, and reuse your best content.
mm,
Promise that is a winning strategy because there are constantly, just like I said with those 5 groups of people, there are constantly new people coming into your world that haven't heard the same old stories. You
mm.
might be sick of hearing about it. They have never heard it, and you need to
Yeah.
repeat it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a reality of being in business
True.
for yourself.
That's true. That's true. Like some of the experts out there, it's like they're repeating the same stuff every day, but they are saying it in a different angle, maybe using different angles. So it's like the same thing. One thing that I've also learned is like repeating the same thing over and over again is like how people learn. So like I totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it. And speaking about affiliates, like how do you facilitate like this affiliate partnership? Because as I'm getting into offer building and offer and like partnering up with others to build offers, like how do you get access to data affiliates, create win-win situations for them and like yeah, like
There's, I
that.
mean, there's a lot of software that makes all of this tracking and stuff super easy these days. So, like, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Chris Orzakowski. Recently, he sent out an email going, I'm looking for affiliate partners.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. There's an opportunity. If you like Chris, if you like what he sells and you want to promote that product, then look for that email and go sign up in Thrivecart, get your little affiliate link, and start writing your promos for it and see what happens. Others will be like invite only. You develop a relationship with this person over time, and eventually they go, okay, I'm looking for help getting the word out about this product. Would you be interested in promoting for me? Cool. The other way is outreach, right? You reach
Mm,
out and go, hey, I'm looking for people to promote. Do you have something? Do you know somebody I should be talking to? Who can I promote? That's what I'm looking to do. So, I mean, the funny thing about how complex marketing gets is you can always boil it down to basically like inbound and outbound.
yeah.
If I don't have enough business, I need to be reaching out. And if
Mhm.
I have too much business, I need to be filtering
Inbound.
the stuff that's coming in. Like every time it gets really complicated, just boil it back, bring
Inbound
it
and
back down to
inbound.
basics.
Awesome. 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 That's like awesome. So apart from all the launches, like all the successes, like when it comes to actually managing the money, because like one of the things that I really love about what you say, I don't want to say, but let it come from like when it comes to like you having the money, you're getting the cash flow, how do you manage that? Like you're getting money, you're
So
becoming successful, then how do you manage those finances?
basically pay yourself first. Like if you haven't
Mm,
heard of Profit First, definitely get that. It's a very excellent read and it points out the problem that a lot of novice business owners deal with, and even experienced business owners, which is revenue minus expenses equals profit. Well, damn, that conference just came along. There's another business expense. Oh, I could upgrade my software. There's another business expense. Ooh, I could get a new computer. There's a business expense. And before
mm,
long, all of your expenses ate up all that profit. Well, profit first is revenue minus profit, i.e., pay yourself first, equals expenses, which puts kind of a natural downward pressure on expanding too much just because your
mm,
revenue went up, right? Um, and also to have, I call it an FU fund, and
yeah.
that stands for exactly what you think it stands for, right? And I'm not going to swear, even though I'm a very sweary person. Um, the FU fund is anywhere from 6 to 12 months
Mm,
of funds to support you. And the reason I call it FU is because it gives you the freedom to walk away from any client. Like
yeah.
a client is annoying the hell out of you, right? They're making you miserable. They're trying to get you to work around the clock. You can literally give them their money back and walk away with a clean conscience because you're not worried about whether or not you're going to be able to eat, right? That changes the dynamic, the power dynamic a lot when you are feeling desperate. And there's nothing wrong with desperation. It's a very powerful motivator. And also, we have to be aware of when it's driving our decisions because fear
Mhm.
based decisions can get us into this vicious downward spiral where everybody can tell that you are broke and desperate and they're
True.
taking advantage of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So having money in the bank really, really helps. And if you're in a position where you're like, hey, that sounds nice for you, Angie, but like I can't afford to do that, you'd be surprised how quickly you can do that if one, you make it a priority, two, you put aside something every week and don't touch it. Don't
Mhm.
freaking touch it ever, unless it's an emergency, unless you need it. And three, when I say 6 to 12 months worth of expenses, I'm not talking about ramen noodle budget, guys. I'm talking about the lifestyle that you live now
Mhm.
to be able to afford that outright without any additional money coming in for the next year. If you've got that kind of money socked away, then imagine how much further that's going to go if you scale down to a ramen
Yeah.
budget. But if you're starting from a ramen budget,
Yeah.
that's aiming the bar low. And if you aim the bar low, you're going to hit it, which sucks. Aim the bar high.
Yeah. Yeah, and for those listening, like I actually listen to this advice, and like one of the things that I like take 40% of everything I get and just start it into my FU content. Again, what Angie is saying is exactly the mindset it puts in is like, okay, it doesn't put in it's like you're in a state where you don't even really care about even if you get a client now or you don't have a client. It's like you're totally calm, like that chill guy that's going around, like you're totally chill. There's nothing that is going to bother you because you know at the back of your mind that, okay, I've saved this amount of money in here. Even if nothing happens for this entire year or next 2 years, I still have something to go. So for those actually listening, I'm actually like practicing this on my own. So if you don't take it from me, take it from Angie, who has like been saying it for years and years now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's even better. Okay, so FU fund is the most important, right? Get your first $1,000 in there, and then just keep that for personal emergencies, and then work on the bigger fund, right?
Mm,
And then once you notice that you've got some discipline and that fund is growing, and I'm not touching it, and I'm not going, oh, I want a client, taking everybody out to dinner, right? Don't do that. I have I have done that. I'm not making fun of anybody except myself here. Um, Maybe you start a tax savings account
mm,
and you funnel off a little bit for the FU fund and you funnel off a little bit for the profit and you funnel off a little bit for the taxes and the rest is your operating income. Cool. Like then we start to get a little bit more disciplined about what we're spending, what we're bringing in. Um, and it's a process. Everybody's learning all of the
yeah.
time. So if you suck with money now, you can get better. Just don't bury your head in the sand and pretend like it's going to magically get better without you actually working on it because it
Mm,
requires work.
sure, sure. That's true. And how does one build that discipline? Like building that discipline of being consistent, even when it comes to copywriting, saving money, putting things aside, like the discipline that comes with it. How does someone build that?
It helps if you can automate it because we're
Mm,
human beings, right? And out of sight, out of mind. Like, cool, that money never hit my bank account to begin with, so I'm not making plans to spend. This
mm,
is what I've got, this is what I can spend. There's also, I mean, this is the same for any habit or routine that you're trying to build into your life. Grace with yourself.
mm,
If this is not your natural way of being, you're gonna screw it up. Welcome to being human.
absolutely.
So when you fall off the wagon, just sit with the feelings, let the uncomfortable part pass, and then recommit to, okay, cool, that didn't go the way that I hoped. That hurt a little bit. That proved to me why I need this savings fund. Let's start again. And I find that that's kind of like if I'm going to be overly simplistic, that's a lot of life too. Is like
Mm,
going, okay, well that sucked. All right, starting again. Here we go.
mm, absolutely. And and that's like totally true because having grace on yourself like lifts you to the state where like even if you mess up, you still know that okay, I'm still going to get back up. Because I've received messages from people who say that they are doing great, but then they basically get overwhelmed. Then they say, okay, I'm not going to do anything again. They are like they don't want to touch work, they don't want to do anything, like they are overwhelmed, they are is it stressed out or like I've forgotten the actual word that comes like they don't want to do any work again. Like they have heaviness upon them. They close their laptop. So for that person who is in that state right now, what would you say to them?
Um, do you know what you can do to bring yourself back to baseline,
Mm,
right? Like if baseline is your normal everyday, I can breathe without feeling panic. I may not feel like over the moon elated, right? But I can exist and I am calm. Can you go for a walk? Can you call a friend? Right? What can you do? And Rhonda Britton is actually a great resource for this. She's got a list of like what she calls proactive behaviors, things
mm,
that you can do to take care of your mental health and yourself. Maybe it's okay, I'm going to be a girl. I'm a crier. If I feel intense emotion, it is coming out of my face. That is just the way I am built. It's okay. But
mm,
one of my proactive moves can be to watch a movie that I love that I know is going to make me cry at that one scene every time. It's a release. There's some
mm,
endorphins there. There's some serotonin and some dopamine that comes from that.
mm,
And okay, cool. I've released all of that from watching my favorite sappy movie. Now I can get back to baseline and get on with it. If you're trying to just muscle through a tough period without addressing that underlying emotion, it's going to be really tough. And it might lead to a downward spiral where you're like, but look, I'm trying and it's not working. And like you can circle the drain really, really quick. So the key is to remember that they're spiraling downward and they're spiraling upward, right? And to get on that upward spiral, I got to make a choice to do something different. What I'm doing is not working. I'm circling the drain. I'm feeling bad. I can't motivate myself to do anything. Okay, so what if I go for a walk or I call a friend? Don't call a friend to vent. Call a friend to cheer up,
yeah.
right? Tell me a joke, share a funny story. Um, Go for a walk, do a workout. My friend Marcella Allison once told me HALT as an acronym. Don't make any decisions when you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. It's the same thing when we talked about at the beginning with fear. When you are making decisions out of those states, you are not you are being reactive, literally, instead of proactive. You're making decisions without full faculties of your brain, and that can often wind you up in a worse situation that you're at. Back
Wow.
to baseline. That's the rule.
Wow, that's amazing. And for those like comparing themselves to others, do you recommend using the same strategy of like going back to baseline, following the thoughts and principle? Like, is it the same thing or there's something else that they need to do as well?
Back to baseline for one, but remembering that comparison is the thief of joy,
Mm,
right? There's always going to be somebody better, hotter, richer, faster, always more successful. There's people that are better than Elon. There's people that are better than Oprah. There's always somebody better,
mm,
right? And people don't all need the same thing. That's like I wish I could go back in time and slap this into younger me because I thought that everybody wanted the cream of the crop, top tier copywriter, sold millions and millions. Okay, but maybe their budget doesn't allow for somebody like me to come in. Maybe they don't like me. That's fair. I don't like everybody either. Like, we don't have to work together if we don't
yeah.
like each other. Maybe it's in an industry or a niche that I don't particularly enjoy working with. I could pass that off to a friend that I know works in that industry.
Mm,
There's lots of reasons why somebody wouldn't need me and they might need Alex instead. And there's lots of reasons why somebody might not need Alex and they might need Angie instead.
mm,
That's like if you can challenge yourself to look more expansively at this stuff instead of competitively, like you're not in competition with me. Nobody's in competition with me. I am Angie. Nobody else is me. Like
yeah,
we might compete for specific jobs, but
absolutely.
one of my favorite stories to tell people is if you know Chris Orzakowski, he worked for me on Jeff's team. I was
Mm,
his chief. I almost, like I said, when I found out who Jeff was and I found out who was going up for the role, almost
mm,
quit. And then I wound up being hired and being the chief and training him. And then he left to start his own thing and teach people email. And then when I left Jeff's team, I went and worked for Chris as the copy chief of his agency team.
yeah.
So like the people that you think you're competing against, you could wind up working with in really unexpected ways if you stop forcing yourself into this box of like, oh, they're better. Oh, we're in competition.
Mm,
Eh, expand your
yeah.
minds. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Your own competition. Compete with yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome.
And
And
how good you were
mhm,
yesterday. Just
mhm,
constantly get better.
mhm. That's like growing 1% each day, learning every day. And like
Hmm.
that's like awesome. And so for what you're doing this year, like what are you like what are you working on this year that we can help other people who are like interested in hearing more about what to do? First of all, like you're very big on podcasts, like permission to kick ass is like something that they need to be listening to every day. Like the guests on they are phenomenal. So I'll link that in the comments after this. And apart from that, like what other things are you working on that you want to talk about?
Um, so yeah, if you listen to the podcast, we're on a hiatus right now while I've got 199 episodes in, and
Yeah.
I just want to figure out what to do with it next. So I'm on a hiatus for a while
Mm,
until I figure that out. But yeah, go listen. It's 199 episodes. It's people from all over the world, all different kinds of industries, all different stages of business, and they're
mm,
telling stories of like losing 80% of their business overnight and how they recovered, falling into a black hole of depression and having to figure out if they even wanted to do this business. Like there's a lot of really inspiring stuff. And that's the stuff I'm interested in versus X ways to Y or Z. All that, like, go listen to a tactics show. Permission to kick ass is not it. Um, Rate, review, and subscribe. And
mm.
I love that for the show. Also have a book called Permission to Kick Ass. That's Alex has referenced that several times during this conversation. But I've had people call that the Bible of starting a service business,
Nice,
which made me feel very good. I
nice.
don't know if I would call it the Bible, but uh, it is everything that I wish I had known when I first
Mm,
started my business. Like it's a love
mm,
letter to a younger me, I think. That's available on Amazon and lots of major publishers. Uh, what else? I Most of my time is taken up with private consulting and coaching. So
mm,
if you have a need, and I am very concerned with affordability, so my packages do start at $500 a month, but you can meet with me personally, not a member of my team. It's not a group coaching call. Like you can get dedicated calls with me to work on your business, work on your copy, work on your mindset. Like
mm.
that's what it starts at. Write to me at Angie@permissiontokickass.com and we'll get something figured out. And if I don't have
Awesome.
the resources for you, I will point you in the right direction.
Yeah, like that's like something that Angie is known for. Like one thing that sometimes in your course, like in your interviews, sometimes you mention that okay, if I like some you mentioned something in lines of you don't work for like financial publishers, like if you want to work for finance, no, but you have people out there that okay, if someone comes to me right now that okay, finance, you have people to which
Yeah.
like send them to. So for anyone who is like interested in hearing more about Angie, like what she's up to. She's on LinkedIn, she's on Facebook, and her website, Permission to Kick Ass. I'll leave that in the comments for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much, Angie, for making the time to speak with us today. Really, really grateful for what you've shared so far. And um, my biggest takeaway is like, don't compare yourself to others. Like, have that heart and principle. Don't make decisions based on hunger.
Hmm.
And one, that's like something that people usually do. They're hungry and they make decisions. So that's like one of my biggest takeaways. So thank you so much once again to about
Hmm.
speaking to us about like mindset launches, and you broke it
Yeah.
down into simple terms. You said, okay, it's like launches are just like marketing for products. So again, thank you for making the time to speak with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for